Commissioners will have a work session in the Commission Chamber on March 14th at 5:15 until 6 p.m. to discuss capital improvement plans. City Manager, this is under your sponsorship, so I'll turn the floor to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no idea what you did.
No, I was sitting there, I did too, and I was distracted. Gino and I were talking about a contract. Yeah, Mayor, thanks everybody for coming together. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Barlow now so he can give us a capital projects update.
Yes, thank you all.
You need a microphone.
Oh,
There you go.
let me grab this one. Does this work? It does. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Kenny, for the time today. I know we met, I believe it was about a month ago, to go over our capital improvement plan, specifically the project prioritization. I know that we met last November. We talked through a lot of our projects that we have and went through sort of a whole list. You can see just a quick sampling. Don't worry about reading all those. This is just kind of an idea of the projects that we have. Basically, projects going down, got them separated by categories, and then how much money we may expect to spend per year, not necessarily taking into account inflation. So we went through the exercise, if you recall, of ranking the projects, trying to figure out what we might like as we felt like our top priorities were: safety, grant funds, congestion. No surprise on this. We went through everything, got everybody's rankings in here. Virtually everybody was in lockstep: safety and congestion 1 and 2. I don't think there's any surprise to that. Then grants and connectivity of other projects, and then readiness of the project. Coming in toward the end was economic impact and transportation plan consistency and some other recommendations. So went through this, averaged them out, just try to get a good average to see. We had a pretty clear separation of 1 through 5. Really, I think it was 1 and 2 was a strong favorite. Obviously, no surprise. And then went through later on, with the grants, connectivity, and readiness in that order. So based on that, trying to come up with some kind of a mathematical formula to apply to our project. So basically did a weight of each category and how that might go to the different projects. So what I did as an exercise to bring to the commission was a spreadsheet that you see here. I love spreadsheets if you can't tell. So with the capital improvement plan, obviously trying to take a look, same thing, what we talked about with projects. And then we have different weights of how many points you could allocate to each category. And basically go through each project and say, for instance, is it a safety specific project? Is it relieving congestion? Does it have grant money on it? Grant could be from the state, could be federal. There could be potentially some, at least some partial funding through developments as well. Connectivity. I think most of every project we have has some form of connectivity. Sorry, Sheila, I got your share. And then how ready it is. Basically, is it close to construction? Could it be close to construction if we start it? So trying to throw some points to these to try to come up and kind of get an idea of the projects. Obviously we've weighted very heavily. This is on a 100-point scale. Everything adds up to 100. So safety, congestion, obviously easily number 1 and number 2. Those are priorities 1 and 2 for us. And so that takes up 70 out of 100 points. And then the remaining is grants, connectivity, and readiness. So did kind of went through the exercise there. I played with the points Matt and I did as far as trying to figure out what projects we really feel, okay, what's our priority projects that we've got that we're working on right now? that are really critical projects for us. And, the top 4 there, South Mountain Juliet Road, Lebanon Road, and then we have South Green Hill and Old Lebanon Dirt Road, which the South Green Hill is a roundabout at Willoughby Station, which has been identified as a safety and congestion project for us for a while. But obviously, we've got our 2, we're nothing if our arteries aren't cleared. And so South Mountain Juliet Road, Lebanon Road, obviously, I think are top priorities. When we went through this exercise about 5 years ago, we actually had the bridge widening over the interstate was number 1. We didn't yet have grant money on South Mountain Juliet Road or Lebanon Road. So those weren't scored as high then at that time. Now this is a little different formula, but now that one's already under construction. And then we've really been focused heavily on getting the 2 state projects you see there at the top moving in the right direction. So no surprise, based on the crash history there, both are warranted as safety projects. Both are congestion projects. It's kind of go hand in hand on those. The congestion leads to safety problems. And then you have grant money on both of those now. You have really good connectivity to existing roadways. And the readiness, we're moving in the right direction, I'll say. It's not ready to be built this year, but we're moving in the right direction. So what I gave on these was basically a yes, no, or a moderate or a maybe. And so the M kind of gets you roughly half points around it. But but you come up with our top 2 projects, top 2 priorities. And then going on down from there, we have the roundabout getting very close to construction. Old Lebanon Dirt Road. It is. Sorry. And then you have Old Lebanon Dirt Road, which we're working on actually acquiring properties as we speak. And then East Division Street, which we now have some money from Amazon on. I think that's a known safety problem. And then you have some others moving on down from there that are trailing probably behind. But Golden Bear, Pleasant Grove Road, and then on, Western Connector and everything. So, if you were going in here and get some grant money on some of these, that's obviously going to knock them up in priority. As time goes on, the readiness may move from a no to a yes. And so those, you can see how the numbers could change from year to year. So it's kind of the idea of it. This is not a foolproof formula, but it's something that, we talk about it. And I think we could all say that we know what our top priority road projects are as far as our state roads. And we are helping manage those, by the way. So it's no surprise that those are 1 and 2. Now you might ask, what about maybe doing some linear weight? Just saying on this, basically safety 30, congestion 25, grants 20, connectivity on down. So 15, 10, just basically saying, all right, just a little bit less. I applied that over here just to see, would it change anything? Generally the same. Kind of got your top 2. That's Lebanon Road and Mount Juliet Road, and then going on down the line. You got a little bit of a log jam, no matter how you slice it, of Pleasant Grove Road, Western Connector, Golden Bear, which takes it all the way to Lebanon Road, and then Beckwith Road. So obviously, if we get some grant money on those, maybe we get some better data on safety and identify maybe it's a worse problem than we thought. Beckwith Road could be one of those. Maybe that jumps up. And so, that's how some of this can change. So again, this is just something to go and try to identify some ranking of priorities. I think it would be our recommendation on this. It's not really going to say we're getting into engineering on these projects. We already are on almost all of them. West Division Street, notwithstanding, or the interchange lighting, that one's not been started. Beckwith Road. So these 3 down here haven't been started yet. But so if we were to say, okay, based on these scorings, okay, well, Beckwith Road, that looks like it may be ripe for starting this year. It really just helps you identify the year. Okay, we know this is going to be coming along. Let's go ahead. If we do all of them at one time, we're going to get so inundated. So let's try to focus in. Okay, let's start. Our recommendation out of that would be, hey, let's start engineering on Beckwith Road this year. Let's see if we can apply for some grant money on Golden Bear interchange lighting. And then probably next year, let's start on West Division Street, so that we're staggering these out a little bit to match kind of what we see as maybe the priority. So that's the roadway section. Applied the same formula to our signal systems. A lot of these are already underway. We're under construction. Golden Bear Volunteers very, very close. And then Curd Road, we're real close to that if we can get one easement from the post office. And then Providence Parkway, that's under construction technically. ITS project phase 2, that one's nearing later this year probably, and then we have some others on down the line. So that same formula applied there. Again, got these bike ped category here. Applied the same thing. Some are safety. We identified safety basically. Is it going to be a safe routes to school? So Town Center phase 3 connects Willoughby, Mount Vernon to the elementary school. That is a safe route to school. It also helps with congestion, for instance. So some others may be more moderate or not quite as obvious. And then on down the line, sewer. Sewer's a little different. You can't necessarily say congestion or safety for sewer, but you can say we need a maintenance project. We may need some additional capacity. Is it connecting to existing systems? We don't want to build something that's real isolated out there without having some other reasons for it. Readiness, how fast can we get a project under construction? This one I threw in some a little bit for economic, because increasing your capacity could actually give an economic boost to a specific area of town. So went through that. Obviously, it's no surprise our main interceptors that we have scored very well. EQ Basin is up there as well. And then on and on down the line. So stormwater, did want to include some potential categories. I want to just include this really for illustration, because we are going through the stormwater capital plan as part of our contract with our consultant. That's going to be later this year. So I don't want to give anything in here that would be contradictory or might not take into account some of the things that we might analyze as part of that plan. I would like to mold that project priorities and that into some semblance of, okay, with flood control, maintenance issues, or there's failing culverts and roadways or yards, which seems to be happening a lot in Blenda City area. Capacity issues, maybe there's, areas getting inundated with stormwater, ditches filled in, things like that. How ready could we do something, and how well does it connect to other stuff? So just again, illustrative. That's the only purpose for that. And then last, public works and engineering facilities, based on needs, feasibilities. Is it a maintenance issue for us? How affordable is it? I think affordability is really key, because anything we do to our own facilities is general fund. We're not going to get grant monies out of that. So affordability is key. And then does it increase our capabilities? So I think that's kind of critical for us. We're at a place where facilities can facilitate new and better things for us as a city. So went through all those. Basically for that one, just more of a linear approach to it. We didn't score that. I know that's much less of a priority than our transportation projects are. So obviously sewer is its own thing. It's its own enterprise fund. Stormwater will be. So they're kind of in their own separate areas. So siloed by funding source. So with that, feel free, questions, thoughts, massaging, revisions.
Funding source examples for stormwater?
Could be, well, that would actually be from a user fee.
How are we collecting that?
That would be not fully determined yet. There's a couple of different options on that. Could be part of our sewer bill.
I think a lot of cities use sewer bill, but we've got a number of people in the city that won't reach.
That's true. And so, so part of our study that we're going through is analyzing how
They
we
get free
will bill.
stormwater?
So it could be water bill. We could work in agreement with Wes Wilson. It could be included as a separate yearly bill, potentially. Any number of different ways to slice it. But on the stormwater, we are, I need to double check with Sheila. I think we are set to have a work session presenting the stormwater. I think it's the second meeting in April. Is that right, Kenny? Yes. Yes, that was one.
But I didn't think we produced those bills, nor did we mail them. I thought that was done at the state.
I'm not sure. I was thinking we did too.
Property tax bill.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
the state printed them. I don't remember, but it was something.
Right.
They were real particular about the format.
Yeah. And that's probably, I'd say, from that aspect, probably won't. And we'll get into this more in, next month when we have our work session on that. But I know that they have been working with Dana and our finance folks to try to figure out best approaches on that. We're not unusual in that regard, that we have to kind of find some creative billing.
So do we have a time frame on when we're going to know what we're doing on the stormwater?
We will know. So the meeting in April, I think after that point in time, we're going to be talking about levels of service, what we basically want to do. And we'll establish that, and then we'll come up with a formal plan. It'll be early summer.
Of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have something that comes to us that we can put that in stone in early summer this year.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I would be voted on. Gino, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I believe that Shane and maybe Sheila consulted with you on the enactment of the stormwater utility only has to be done via ordinance, correct? No
Correct.
referendum.
No referendum.
I think Commissioner Hefner had asked that question. So,
Yeah.
Um,
Probably wouldn't get a lot of votes from the people at the top of the hill.
no. Everybody at the bottom of the hill, yes.
Yes.
So going back over to the projects,
Sure.
you had the sewer projects. Did you have those listed? Didn't.
I do. Yes, sir.
And the reason I asked that question, we're talking about I'm seeing an old Lebanon Dirt Road pocket plan, but
Mhm.
the city has a pocket plan that was voted on many, many, many years ago.
That's right.
And is it listed in here?
No. So this
Shouldn't
is
that
what we
be a-
currently have budgeted.
Okay, shouldn't that be a priority?
I think some of the stuff around the old Lebanon Dirt Road pocket, old Lebanon Dirt Road plan specifically tied with the road widening because we were getting into some people's field lines. If we didn't do that specific section, we would wind up condemning their homes.
That's correct.
What I was talking about was a section over on Larson Drive, Page Drive.
Yeah, this
in that
connects to
area,
this.
and then
Mhm.
going, and I don't know, Bill, you may know more about this than I do, but the,
It's Page Drive, that what I was talking to you about.
That's right. Yes, sir.
okay,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
But then there's the areas over in that area, didn't it seem like that there's, well, I know Lebanon Road was one of the pockets that started somewhere around about Scotts Hollow Hill and went down to, supposed to meet Metro. That's the line's never been extended.
Yeah, it's St. Stephen's is waiting for sewer.
So there's
all the
everything
way
down
back
through there, I
to
think,
roughly Liggins Farmish
It
area.
is Lee,
in that area.
from that area down.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the fact that those were voted on 15 years ago, you'd think that those would be automatically put to top of the list before anything else goes.
Just my personal opinion, I'd like to see the pocket plan in this budget. I'd like to know what it would cost us, from a sewer rate standpoint to do it.
Well,
It's not going to get any cheaper.
no, and actually what I
Correct.
had talked to Andy about was, we know that the growth area is going out Benders Ferry Road, like we talked about. Why don't we just get a study done on what it's going to cost for us to run that sewer out there, charge anybody that ties onto it, to pay the city back, and get the pocket plan done all at one time. So that we're not sitting here looking 20 years down the road going,
Yeah.
why didn't we do sewer
I
out there?
didn't do it. Yeah.
So, I mean, is
I mean,
that something
I
you
agree.
could do?
And I think that could almost be a separate workshop
I actually think it probably should be.
You
because
talking about the pocket plan and the other stuff?
because it's the pocket plan, then it's the impact. I think we all need to go into it eyes wide open as to what the impact is for the people's houses that go by, whether they take sewer or don't take sewer, and what that means. And there's
Well-
several pieces to it.
Let me go ahead and tell you, as a recipient,
Personal experience.
a personal experience from a pocket plan, we actually in 2003, that's when we started at 4 maybe, we actually went into and did a pocket plan on Nonneville Road that went down in Royal Oaks. It started out being 1.3 million, wound up being 2.6 million because they did not realize that there was as much rock in Wilson County as there was. But the people who did not tie onto the sewer, as long as they were within 200 feet of the sewer line, had to pay a minimum
Minimum bill.
bill. What is that minimum bill now?
I think it's about $20.
Okay, back then it was $11.90 is what the minimum bill was.
And that's whether you take it or not.
Whether you took
Correct.
it or whether you didn't, the minimum
Yeah.
bill had to be paid because you had access to it. If it was over 200 feet, you
That's
didn't
right.
have to pay the minimum bill.
Yes.
Gino?
I can't remember what the statute says, but I remember writing it about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Said something along those lines, whether you
Uh,
town or not.
You're right. And it went,
Mhm.
that particular went down all of Nonneville Road and went all the way to the Royal Oaks line out there, if I'm not mistaken. The people who were tying on to it were given an opportunity to take advantage of a zero interest loan from the city of Mount Juliet.
They just rebuild through their sewer bill.
Sure was. Well, it was built at the same time as the sewer bill. $65 a month for the tapping capacity fees. And I think it was over a 2-year period, if I'm not mistaken.
I know from looking at the pocket plan that we have, that's most recent, we did an update in 2020. From looking at that, I've looked at several different areas to try to see cost feasibility. I think it's worth discussing with the commission. I've had some difficulty in trying to figure out projects that are cost feasible. In a lot of ways, what I've looked at to see, is there a potential for development that could connect to something? For instance, we talked about it with Canebrake. We talked about bringing sewer over there as it was. We didn't grant them out of city sewer, so the project died. We could still do the project, but we're boring under a creek and we might serve maybe 8 residents. The cost feasibility of that's really cost prohibitive. We would lose money on that in time, I would be afraid. Again, if you have more, I think about it as number of customers or potential number of customers. If you have a good potential, and then there's an opportunity that we might be able to recuperate our costs, I would definitely recommend that. And I think to that aspect of this, we talk about, some of these, keep that in mind. If we score our sewer, how we might score those, a pocket plan, it's not going to score that well based on what I have right here. I mean, you can see 11 on Dirt Road. It's a necessity, but it's the lowest scoring one.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I would say that Stoner Creek Interceptor, that's our main trunk line. That's our lifeblood for sewer. That's a big need. It needs upsizing.
Where's that?
Stoner Creek.
Tell me correct.
Cedar Creek Interceptor, the one's under construction right now, actually. That one is bad shape. We have a lot of water intrusion right there. It's actually, the slope is bad. The pipes are in bad shape. And that's a must. There's no question about that. Those are absolute
What kind of
musts.
cost is affected by that intrusion?
It's based on gallons. Basically what you look at, our average rate of flow is about 3.5 to 4 million gallons a day that we send to Metro. If you get a big rain, you go about 8, potentially 8,
Wow.
9 million gallons.
So we're doubling.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. That's very common. Lebanon they have an older system, so theirs is worse. The age of the system says it has a lot to do with that. So, we take some of our oldest areas. Belinda City's one that we have a lot of water intrusion in those. So we're going through lining the taps, and we have a lot of rehabilitation work to be done out there. Those are the things that we pay, and I'd have to go back and look at our rate, but as far as what we pay Metro per gallon, but in a big rain, double it, take the rate, what we pay Metro, and there's your cost per big rain event. Now, moderate rain events, okay, it might go from 3.5 to 5 million gallons in a 1 or a 2 inch rain, maybe a 2 inch rain. But
What do we pay per gallon?
I don't know right off the top of my head. Wish Dana was here. She probably
She's
not.
over there. You
Oh.
want her?
Well, unless you know what our cost per gallon we pay in Metro is for sewer.
She don't want the wholesale rate.
Yeah. So that's we call it I&I, infiltration and whatever it is. But I know the acronym. I don't know the other one other than infiltration. But basically it's excess groundwater getting into our system that we have to then pay to treat.
Right.
So it's no go. The tighter, better our system is from keeping that water from getting in our system, then the less we have to pay.
I'm assuming 0 is not possible.
That's a great goal.
Yeah, right.
I think it's a great goal.
Isn't it like with emergencies for runoff in order to
It
keep
is. That's the whole reason we have the EQ basin.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose for it. And of course, we're doing the EQ basin anticipating our next contract with Metro too.
Yeah.
That we're going to be capped. And if we pay any more, then we're going to have to pay double what that cap is. So that's the whole purpose of the EQ basin, is to save money in the future.
I have a question about that.
Yes, ma'am.
We have some that would be interested in hearing the discussion about the flood mitigation that will go alongside the EQ basin down Old Lebanon Dirt Road. Do you have anything you would like to add on that?
That one will probably be when we have a work session with the stormwater utility. I think that's going to be the second meeting. If everything's set right, that'd be the second meeting in April. I think that's the right time to bring up that conversation, especially if it's specific to specific areas, flooding concerns, or probably even better, how do you mitigate it?
Do you have a timeline for them? You can share any insight at all?
We would at that meeting. And if there's anything extra other than that meeting, I mean, we could have a separate work session too, but I don't want to overload it unnecessarily. But if there's specific specific people with specific questions or issues, I mean, I think as we get further along into the utility and seeing how we might prioritize projects, it's probably a good time to look at that. We get on the project list, and then how do we prioritize those?
Okay.
I'd say there's a lot more discussions to be had, though. A lot. Oh, okay, good.
Inflow and infiltration.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Took a minute.
So the meeting in the second meeting in April, and that's going to be for the stormwater. Are they going to be ready, or are they just going to be coming in with just an overall base? Are we going to be able to see the recommendations prior to that meeting so we can come in with questions, or is it going to be a first kickoff meeting?
So not, I wouldn't call it a kickoff meeting, but it's going to be a meeting to discuss what's our expectation for service. I think they've done the modeling. They've gone through, identified problem areas themselves, and now it's a matter of trying to go through and seeing if we want level of service A, we want to take care of every single problem out there on the face of the planet within our city. Then here's what your rate per month is going to be. If you want just barely get by, let's do just a little bit more than we're doing now. Let's just fund our existing program. Here's your lower number. And it's really kind of getting to that level of what's our expectation and what's that going to cost everybody. And that's all of us. I mean, we're all homeowners. So how much is that going to cost us a month? And then for the commission, I mean, obviously your representation is going to be wanting to know that as well. And they're going to want to know what benefits they're going to be able to get from it. So I think that's going to be the trade-off.
Will we be able to see that report prior to that meeting, or is that going to be the first? That's what I was looking for, is the kickoff for him to be.
I'll have to check
presenting
and
that, or-
see. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure what information they'll have ahead of time. I'll check though.
Okay. It'd just be nice to be able to walk into the meeting with at least an
Mhm.
understanding of what we're getting ready to be seeing, in case we have any questions.
Yeah, I know the project plan itself is going to be later on in the summer. That'll be later this summer, potentially fall.
For the
Stormwater.
stormwater.
Mm-hmm. That's a much more in-depth
The utility.
process. Yes. Yeah, establishing the utility is one thing, and there's some rough idea of projects already, but then trying to go through and actually identifying the plan, like what we're talking about here, getting in the nitty gritty and estimating and trying to identify those and project sheets for each one of those. That's a lot more in depth.
So are you going to tie the flood mitigation on Old Lebanon Dirt Road into the stormwater utility?
That's to be determined right now. You're talking about the area that's the bowl that's currently flooding.
Yeah, that you're going to do alongside the basin.
That's still to be determined. We've been going through, Matt and I, Shane, all of us. We've had a lot of in-depth meetings on that. We actually met, was it last week?
It's gonna be on the next work session.
Yeah.
To discuss those options to mitigate the flooding.
We wanted to try to have that tonight, but our consultant wasn't going to be able to make it.
Or
And
what?
Our consultant wasn't going to be able to,
Oh,
to make
okay.
it tonight.
Oh.
So that's going to be next meeting.
Okay.
And that could have some, there's some big financial decisions to be made on that project. Not to be too ominous.
Yeah, we got 11 minutes left in the meeting. We just go around the table. Vice Mayor, any other questions?
You made a couple of comments about grants in relation to some of the road projects. And I think we found where, while it may be great, there's also some problems when we get these grants. For instance, the Lebanon Road over here, going from Park Glen to the city limits, we find out that not only did we get a grant that extended it 2 years, then they went in and got federal money to add to that and actually extended the project another 2 years. So it would, with the time associated with the cost of money, at what point does that outweigh? We've got to throw this out too. We've got a sidewalk going down West Division. I thought, was it? How long did it take?
It's only 12 or 13 years.
13-year sidewalk. Yeah. And if the city had done that sidewalk, it'd probably been done in how many months? I'll ask you.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay. But because we got the state involved, it took us 13 years. Down my red light up here at Park Glen, that was 7 years. I don't even think that, what was that, 125, 150,000?
Yeah, it was about 150.
So you see the concern is we go out and we look for the grants, but then at the same time, those grants put put us in a position where, me, at least, I'm voting on projects now and getting grants for projects, but when I get the grant, we put about outside what my life expectancy is. My mortality is kind of out. I won't see them built.
Well, I mean, that's the problem. We got 20 transportation projects, $186 million worth of them, and we're on the hook for $110 million. I guess we can do it without grants, but then we need to come up with another $75 million.
I'm
Or
just
76,
asking, at what
yeah.
point, though, does it become cost prohibitive to actually get a grant to help you get the project done?
I had a great discussion on that very, very topic with a guy who was the transportation director in Murfreesboro. This was 12 years ago, but he actually said $750,000 was his number. If a project was less than 750,
Just did it.
no grant money, wouldn't apply for it. I talked with the current transportation director of Murfreesboro. We talked about that very same topic. He said it's about 1 to 1.5 now for him.
Adjusted for inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So about 3 million is a going number.
I mean, to that point, Vice Mayor, you bring up a really, really good project. Park Glen Signal. We could have easily done that. Now, looking back, we could have easily done it. At the time, I don't know, Kenny could probably extrapolate some. At the time, money was a premium. And then when we applied for the grant, it's the financial.
Well, it's flipped
Statuses.
about 2016 where we had 2 nickels to rub together.
Mhm. Now, I'd say under our current financial state, I agree with Murfreesboro. If we get a grant, and it's not, I'd say probably $1 million is probably a good number. But if it's less than $1 million, or if it's a project on here that we say, man, that's a pretty low priority project, like Cedar Creek Greenway Phase 2, be a great project. I think it'd be a beautiful project, but it's mostly recreational. Do we want to spend $1 million on a recreational project when we got traffic problems? I'd say, okay, well, let's get some grant money on that and let's go with it. And we can just wait for the recreational aspect of it.
And we've had a conversation about that too, but that Cedar Creek Greenway plan was actually, we created that. I was trying to remember when that was, and it was the Parks and Recreation Technical Advisory Service meeting that we had, but it was actually in 2001, 2002 when we had that meeting, and it was later on down the road when it was approved.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at 17 years ago
Right.
that plan was approved to get, and which Jackson Hills, I think, paid for part of that. And was they part of the payment on that?
They built part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's
of
another
course-
aspect. Developments. You get to the development in here, maybe they could build part of it. That's
I would look
critical.
for the development to pay for more than a grant. I think the development does it. Of course, the private sector gets it done so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
On their land.
we're coming back for another workshop. Let's take a stab at a draft on some of this stuff, like where it makes sense on transportation projects.
Well, this is pretty much it as far as trying to get some numbers to it. My take on this, and this is my proposal to the commission, but this is meant to be a living formula. This is something that can change from year to year. My take on it would be most all these projects are already funded except a few. Okay, let's get started on maybe one. Let's get some engineering started. My recommendation to bring to the commission. Let's get started on engineering for Golden Bear, finishing out to Lebanon Road, and let's get started on Beckwith Road engineering this year. This current year that we're in, we got started or we're getting started Pleasant Grove, Western Connector. Those are the 2 new starts this year. Let's get 2 new starts next year, and then let's look on and let's start getting new starts year after year so that we're getting a process going. We're getting a really good system going of projects.
Keep the hopper going.
Mhm.
Commissioner Trevette, do you have?
No, the only thing I really have, well, first of all, Annie, thank you for pulling this together, and obviously listening to what we're trying to accomplish based off the surveys. Obviously, when it comes to the stormwater and the sewer, those are 2 priorities for me in my district. But I do want, for the next meeting that we do have with the stormwater, if we could get the report there, and also with these top 4 that I'm looking for on the sewer, I'm kind of interested to see what the survey is going to come out and if this survey is going to mirror what these expectations are for the capital improvement, if that's going to change anything. So obviously, I know that you kind of left that a little bit of a blank there and an opportunity, but I understand this is a living document, so just looking forward to seeing what options we do have there. So
Yeah,
that's all.
sure. Yeah, I think to my point on this, my goal for us as the city is I want to adopt the capital improvement plan as part of our budget. And so the purpose behind these meetings, and I don't necessarily want to do this year after year. This is a start, and then we could probably just address everything from just minor changes or tweaks from here on as we go forward from year after year. Let's do this. I'd like to adopt this every year, keeping in mind that fiscal year 31 is way out in the future.
Sure.
We're not committing ourselves to anything then. We're just trying to get ourselves maybe set up for success then. But it's in much the same way the state does. We're only funding this coming year. That's really kind of the idea of it. New projects will come along every single year.
Commissioner Mullally?
Where am I at? Cedar Creek Greenway completion is it October expected? All right.
Correct.
I think that's all I had.
Okay.
And Vice Mayor?
Can you, just looking at some of your road projects up there, and you're talking about the engineering costs being put into in the budget.
Right.
Due to whatever it may be on top priority or whatever. My question is, can you project what the associated engineering costs are for each and one of these road projects?
It's a wild guess at this point in time. Ultimately, it really kind of depends on the scope. I know Matt and I have been working through on a couple of those.
Like South Mount Juliet Roadway, and it's a major project. I think
Now,
our
that's ongoing, though,
consultant
right?
agreement do what?
That one's ongoing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
The
that's
cost
already
of the
been-
engineering that we paid for, the contract was around $1 million.
So
for that
that
a major
engineering,
project, it's big.
Yeah.
Because it takes many years to get through.
okay, and
We could give ballparks,
okay,
depending on the scope. I mean,
and then I'm curious also, what about the life of an engineering document? Once the engineering is completed on it, how long is that that document good for before it's no longer usable?
as long as you don't change the scope of the project, it stays good. The only things that you would have to,
I don't like that caveat.
no,
Yeah, no.
well, I think a general idea, let's take 11 and Dirt Road, for instance. That was designed and put on a shelf many, many years ago. The design on that was a straight road. Literally, I don't think there was a single curve in it. Not side, like vertical curves, but there wasn't a single horizontal curve from Mount Juliet all the way to Kelsey Glen. Well, that's not what we want to do. So obviously the concept changed, but again, that was designed back 2004, 2005. And then it was put on a shelf and died. I think if you talk reasonable though, if we say we engineer a project and we want to build it within 5 years, this is our project. The only things that you're going to have to go back and do is update the survey. You have to update some survey, maybe update some standard drawing numbers, things like that. There's some brushing up that you have to do as time goes on. For every year, you've got to brush up some things. But in general, TDOT's had projects on the shelf for years.
So
All
the
they do
base
is
project,
brush it up and then bid it.
so the base project, basically, once you've got a project completed, you've got everything that's set out in the document. From that
Mhm.
point on, if there's any changes, you tweak the changes.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, to that, I'd say go ahead and buy the right of way, move the utilities. I think that's our take on it.
That's the timepiece. Well, it's 6 o'clock. Andy, do you have any last words?
No, I just thank you all for the time on it. And me and my staff, we're going to go through and we'll get the basically an updated document of what we discussed last November. Update this and plan on including that with the budget. So look forward for more of this. Not to some good bedtime reading there.
So is there a way for you to get us the costs on the pocket plan and the others and kind of the Benders Ferry Road And I think the wastewater guys would probably be
Mhm.
helping you with that, right?
We can, I'll be honest, I think the pocket plan needs its own meeting. I think
agree.
it does.
Yeah, I don't
And I don't know if we include that necessarily in this budget, because the question about rates is a serious question.
It's
a
the
very-
first year to break even.
We are, actually, we were to the good last year.
Yeah.
So, but if we do,
Take a bond project out and that changes your
it
ratios.
really does. It would increase our rates. The more pocket plans we do, it's going to increase our rates, no question.
That's whether, I mean, I think the question is, are we talking about 50 cents or $50?
That's yes.
$50 and we'll all be gone.
How long would it take you to do that study to figure that out?
We already have the pocket plan in place. As far as figuring out the rate study aspect of it, I think it's just be a matter. I'd have to get with Dana. We might have to update our rate study consultant. And I mean, that's not that long of a process. The rate study aspect of it could be just a couple of months.
I personally think we need to move forward with that. Just so we've got that information, you just get it to us as soon as possible.
Mhm.
I just hate that these people sit out here without sewer for all these years. I will tell you from experience, you will have people holding hands and laying down in front of bulldozers. That literally happened. Yeah, when we put sewer lines out.
You know, it's going to be fun little.
Yeah.
But they forget when they get a garbage disposal.
No, actually, they don't. I just got an email the other day. Yeah. Since you forced this on us.
Yeah.
No, it was actually, it wasn't free. It was a zero interest, and it was $1,250 per tap and $1,250 for the capacity fee.
But
So,
the state, we're not a bank, so we can't
Well-
offer special.
no,
reduced
all we
rates.
did at that point was we let them
And
have
pay the
that, and then
claims.
they paid it back in their sewer bill, $65 a month, $67.50.
Commissioner Lady's got one more.
Oh, just quick. I just want to say,
Oh,
I like the way y'all do your charts and everything. It's just great work, and it just seems very organized and prioritized. And I know things can change according to, little things. But anyway, I just wanted to say good job the way you lay that out.
appreciate it. Yeah. I was massaging it this morning. So
We will we'll adjourn this meeting. We're a few minutes over, but we will reconvene at 6:15 for our public hearing. And following that, we'll have our regularly scheduled board meeting at 6:30.